Hello, welcome to CHRO Club. Today is very special. I'm as excited as a baby with a new toy for two reasons. First, I'm at the iconic Tata Center and I will be speaking to the Group CHRO of Tata Steel companies shortly. And second, because we are just beginning the second season of CHRO Club. And I'm delighted to introduce my guest speaker today, as mentioned, Atrayee Sanyal, CHRO of Tata Steel Group of Companies. Hi Atrayee, how are you?
Hi Puja, what a delight to have you over at Tata Center today. And I'm looking forward for our chat.
Thank you. There is so much to know from you. I feel because Tata Steel is like a huge industry. So, let me begin by asking you that Tata is a huge conglomerate and Tata Steel itself has other companies and entities under it. So, can you just explain us what this entire spectrum looks like?
Thanks, Puja. Actually, people do not understand, where these individual companies belong in the entire Tata Group. So, Tata Group is a 165 billion USD group, right? And there are three companies which account for a huge portion of the revenue that we contribute. Tata Steel is one of them with around 27 to 28 billion in the past 2 years. And we of course have our brand attachment to the Tata Group, but within that itself, Tata Steel is a brand by itself. So that's how it plays out with, around 10.2 lakh employees in Tata Group. Tata Steel would be having around 78,000 employees across the globe in various parts of the value chain actually, and that itself is quite a thing to manage.
So, for a HR leader like the CHRO of the global group of Tata Steel, so how is it to kind of align purpose and culture here and globally? What are the complexities there?
Yeah. So there are similarities and there are uniquenesses which we need to be very mindful of. The similarity is the value chain of steel. Okay, it's very similar in the way we produce steel, the way we mine and get our raw materials, the way we produce and sell it to the customers that we do. Automotive as well as construction are the two main industries that we supply to. What is unique is the culture. The Indian culture, it has been historically based at Jamshedpur, but now it's more Orissa centric. So we will really have all our growth coming from there. We also look forward to the decarbonization journey, and you've been reading a lot, probably it's what's happening in the Netherlands and UK. And the culture out there is very different. It's like transforming themselves. What Tata Steel India will transform years from now, the UK and the Netherlands businesses already started transforming. So the kind of skills you require, the kind of people you require, the kind of leadership you require, the kind of transformative culture that you require out there is very unique.
So how does HR keep up with the rapid change happening? Like you already mentioned, decarbonization, getting net zero, sustainability. So how is HR supporting the business and let's say the board charter around these issues?
So it's a very tall task. You will know that steel industry is most challenged by very substantial amount of carbon emissions. Within the Tata Group also, we are probably the leading company to contribute to the carbon emissions, and therefore our sustainability journey is a very serious agenda. And when we take the agenda, we need to break it up by goals of how we do in terms of carbon emission, how we do biodiversity, how is it that we do waste utilization. These are the pillars. There is an Alingana program in the Tata Group, but Tata Steel by itself is very much a harbinger of how sustainability is driven in the globe. Ultimately, when it comes to HR, the sustainability story boils down to capacity and capability. Do we have enough number of people who are able to support us in the decarbonization journey across the value chain? The capacity is in terms of number. The capability is who are those people who will help us? It's new technology. We are very much on the path of it. In India, we've started in EAF, electric arc furnace based, which is scrap based. You don't mine the earth, but you use the scrap to produce steel. That's what is sustainable steel production. But it means that what is traditionally our blast furnaces have to slowly shut down. That's exactly what is happening in UK. That's exactly what will happen in Netherlands, and probably in future will happen in India too. So it means transforming the entire workforce from a process of steel making that they were so used to for hundreds of years. So where are the skills? Even across the globe, probably there will be a lot of skill shortage, and we will really have to train our people and pick them up. Along with it comes digitization, safety, all of that. So it's really not the steel company of the past, but what it's graduating towards, a sustainable and digital steel company of the future.
Yeah. See, the future is coming so fast and so rapidly, actually in lightning speed. And, with these industrial revolution 4.0 with the machines, there could be a time when you would require less workforce as well. So how are you going to kind of plan, this entire new way of working?
A very interesting one. Actually, just to paint the picture very simply, most companies have similar type of workforce in a similar type of work environment. Okay, Tata Steel has 3 types of workforce: the white collared, the blue collared, and the grey collared, which is the contract workforce. And they are in different work environments, like they are in the mines, they are in places like Jamshedpur, Kalinganagar. Looking at this, actually what really differentiates Tata Steel in India specifically, and even in the other geographies, is the kind of unions we've had. You might not know, but Netaji Subhash was the union leader. We've had almost 100 years of no strike and stoppage of work in India. We have a joint consultative mechanism with our union members, where our CEO and the president of the Tata Workers Union are chairs alternatively to solve problems and corporate problems, business problems of the company. Yes, it does have an implication of a workforce reduction, but to me, according to me, it is about skill change which is most important. Steel will always remain physical to a great extent. Mining will be, projects will be full of construction. There will be a lot of people always on the ground. But how they operate, what they operate, and from where they operate, the skill will totally change. And that's the journey that we're on.
Yeah, and probably expansions will happen. So there will always be requirement for the workforce. Only it's what you do, how you work would change.
Oh yes, so I keep telling my people 2 things. It's the rule of 20, I say, or the magic of 20. We've become 20 million tons in 100 years, and we are going to become exactly around 40 million tons in the next 7 years.
Oh wow!
So that's
what
that's
took 20
the
years
of 20.
is less than 50% as well.
Yes. And more than 20 to 25% of our workforce will be diverse. So another magic of 20 plus. And the Tata Steel is 20 companies built into one. So if you look at why people should join Tata Steel, there's the magic answer to that too.
What is government's role today when it comes to compliance and regulatory? Because at one point of time, manufacturing was a very regulated industry. But today, do you think things have become simple, or suddenly there are compliance changes? And what is this like?
So, Tata Steel and the government, it's a very unique relationship. So, in the past, whatever we did, the government followed. Maternity leave, 8 hours working, medical, many other things which we started and the government followed. We started paternity leave it's going to be almost a decade. People don't realize it. We started work from home almost a decade back. We started adoption leave and transgender adoption, which is still not a law, way back. Okay. We have no office swiping in, no attendance, no leave granting. People do not understand that that's Tata Steel, and not the that we've done it now, not that it's happened during COVID, it's happened way back. Okay, but this is white collared, blue collared. I think the government has a lot to do in terms of establishing the rules of care. You cannot have cost arbitrage through contract workers by exploiting them, making them work with lesser wages, and that is the journey that Tata Steel wants to do faster than the government and set an example. So if we have 100-year-old unions, if we have contract workers of 150,000, it's our job and onus to shape that path and that workforce.
Legacy company like Tata Steel, the size that it has and the processes that kind of it's been shaping over the years, how do you attract the younger force and how do you retain them? And are you also grappling with attrition like the ITS sector is grappling with? Maybe 40-45% attrition is some of the numbers we've heard. Yes.
Okay. So probably we are blessed. So we have around more than 2,000 people coming in different cadres across the company. And in Netherlands and UK, of course, it's more attrition. Recruitment does happen in hundreds, not in thousands over there. But India, of course, there are thousands that come in. At any point of time, if a 2-year apprentice training is going on, 4,000 people will be living in our hostels and, you know, training. It's the technical training and safety training is something which is worth noticing. Why would people come to manufacturing? That is the reason why I was telling you that of course there's the Tata brand, but youngsters don't join a company only with the brand in mind. We have attritions as low as 4 to 5%. I don't know whether we should be worried about that also, but what I watch is of course regrettable attrition, whether we are losing our high performing people to competition, whether we are losing young talent, young leadership talent is what I keep my eyes on. It is around 12%, 10 to 12% in any bad year, but you know, our attraction of talent is very high. We go to the top colleges, we get day 0, day 1 in almost all of them. Last year, you will know, you are from the HR world, that all the colleges had several consultants, IT companies just backing out. You will not imagine how many colleges had to depend on manufacturing, and within manufacturing, who would they depend on? Tata Steel. Okay, so Tata Steel really took up more than 20% of what it requires, more than that, 20-25% more than what we usually require, because we wanted good talent to find house in a company which is 20 companies built into one. Variety is the spice of life. I look at the youngsters, I cannot deny that had I been born in this age, I would probably look for why not dabble with tens of things, okay, but you can do the tens of things in a company like ours. You have to think as to where do I pay my premium for the insurance of life, for the insurance of my career, and which is that place where you will continue to pay your premium. That means no matter where you belong, you will have to decide at one point of time that this is where I belong. So the task of Tata Steel is to create that belongingness in challenging careers, good pay. We are not like great pay masters, good pay, and also looking at diverse challenges across the globe. So I think that's what will attract people.
Yeah. So, you know, today talent is the competitive advantage for any organization, and for HR being, people leaders, having the right talent is the biggest KRA. So for a HR leader, when you have these boardroom decisions, what kind of talent strategies do you make for the short term, mid-term, long term, and what kind of tools and technologies are helping you today to make those decisions? So I just want to understand, because you would be the best person to tell us what kind of seat is possible for a HR leader in a board, and that too for a company as big as yours.
Yeah. So one thing is you would probably know that I did not belong to HR. Even this is probably the 6th or 7th year that I'm in HR. 20 years was with customers and marketing and sales. Okay. One thing is that the business orientation of people who are coming into HR to solve what is required for the business then and there, and also for the long term in the future, is something that we always need to keep in mind. We have the imperative that talent is something which is just to attract that kind of a talent and get that discussion into the boardroom is happened in phases in Tata Steel. Okay, there was a time that we would talk about whether we have the leaders, we have the successors, how robust is our succession planning. It was India focused, and that's how we were doing it. Then we came to a stage that we're going to acquire and become big, and we're going to look at growing our business. Do we have people of different capabilities across the value chain? And we did that in the boardrooms, and we discussed it, and we found that we were very much up to it. Then we came to the thing that, you know, we have to simplify, and therefore we've got to merge various companies who are part of the steel value chain, but there were companies which were 1 year old and the companies which were 100-year-old which were merging in. All of a sudden we had 5,000 people coming in with, you know, another 10 unions who were merging in. We had to do that well. Did we have the capacity? We almost have a playbook now. Then came the discussion that, you know, Tata Steel as a group exists not only in India, not only in Jamshedpur, but in across all areas of the world, okay, especially Europe and India. So how do we integrate talent? So that's the discussion in the boardroom now. So board has taken a very, what would I say, HR as a center stage discussion. Of course, I sit in many of the group company boards, and therefore the nomination and remuneration committee is talking about not only compensation, not only about leadership, but what is it that you want to do to take talent development to the next stage.
Wonderful to hear that. Atrayee, what are some of the biggest challenges you face as a HR leader in today's era? I mean, for different leaders and for different companies, it could be different challenges. But what are your 2 to 3 key areas?
How do I get younger people to come and work in a place called Noamundi or Bhelatand or Kalinganagar? That's a challenge. Okay, so one of our long-term projects is how do we give urban experiences in remote locations? Not easy. Okay, that's the challenge, primary challenge that I have as a CHRO. The second challenge is how do we transform to a sustainable future? So what's happening in UK, in Netherlands and in India, how do you transform? And suddenly this whole piece of people who have emotions, and I keep telling my people, you know, you have, imagine a world where you have machines and you have spare parts which are, each of them are unique. You can't fit one into the other. You cannot buy it off the shelf if you want. You cannot just cart it from here to there. It is almost impossible, those machines. That's what human resource and human capital management is. You are all the time talking of talent, but how fungible and how usable and how potential driven systems do you have to use them in the decarbonization journey? How do you do that? That's the challenge, and it's exciting one. And of course, the usual challenge is that how do you manage youngsters? We all seem to struggle at home as well as office. But then I just think we have to be cool, non-hierarchical, which people perceive Tata Steel to be bureaucratic, hierarchical. It's not like that. And hierarchy sometimes it's good. It becomes aspirational for people, right? So you have to use it to its advantage and see how millennials identify with it.
You know, today AI has become a buzzword and it is poised to change HR forever. What is your take in all this hype about automation, Gen AI in HR, and
so, you know, the use of HR, AI into HR has started in Tata Steel way too early, I would say. I do not know how many manufacturing companies would have done that. We have our open AI customized digital assistant in-house, okay, which enables us to ask any question about anything. I'll tell you one interesting example. I just wrote this end of this year, I said that I want to give performance feedback to a leader who was very good but suddenly has dropped and seems to be disengaged, is sounding very rude these days. I don't want to demotivate him, but I want to give a good feedback. And I put that to the OpenAI platform, and a wonderful feedback came out, okay? Now, do you use it so clinically? Well, I got the write-up from there, and I knew my nuggets, and I kept on refining it. When I had the face-to-face 1 hour discussion, feed-forward discussion with that leader, it was really helpful. So you can really use AI in different formats. Recruitment is using it like anything. Our CIO and his team is like cutting edge, and they do some great work for us. And I think we will move to the next level of using not only AI, but even machine learning, even doing robotic process automation so that people do value added jobs, things like that, which we are on.
Interesting. And good to hear that there is synergies between the IT and HR for this kind of upgradation. Lastly, Atrayee, I'd like to ask you, what would you advise, the younger professionals who are starting the HR journey or who are in their midway towards climbing on the top? What would your advice be to them?
Um, uh, to any of my younger colleagues and middle level colleagues, be it in HR or not, I keep telling them that the formative years are to be like a sponge. Absorb everything, do and dirty your hands with everything that comes your way, because you're going to pick up the threads of the business, and do not shy away from it, saying that I was not meant to do this and I was only meant to do strategic jobs. That's the biggest mistake that you do in the formative years. In the middle level years, variety is good. That means width is something that you should experience. You also need to find out 1 or 2 areas of depth. If you do not have expertise and depth in 1 or 2 subjects that you stand for, you will not build your brand as a person who's going to be a professional leader in future. That's the middle level. In the leadership level, there are, managers of people, there are managers of teams, and there are leaders and leader of leaders. Leadership is not just one thing called I am a leader. There are grades of leaders. The biggest thing that differentiates you is how you handle people. And in HR, no matter how much AI comes or what type of people you handle, you cannot be checklisting. You cannot have input driven, fill up this form, do this, apply for your leave. You've got to be output driven HR, as to what outcome are you bringing about and how empathetic, how does it touch your heart. For me, it has to touch my heart, what I'm doing. I don't know, people call it purpose, people call it reason for doing a job, but for me, if HR doesn't have heart, you finished. You cannot expect any of the people in your organization to do that.
Wonderful. Atrayee, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for joining CHRO Club. And it was so wonderful to meet and learn so much from you. It was like as though years of experience have been kind of given out and we've got the best learnings in, just 20 minutes. This was like really wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.